It's going to be a football game tonight now, no doubt. It's going to be a football game here. Okay. I done been here before. All right, let's go, baby.
9. Rushing 4, ball comes out of the hands of Newton. It's on the ground, and it's still on the ground. Picked up by T.J. Ward at the 4-yard line. Vaughan Miller did it again.
Alabama back on top of the college football world.
Ladies and gentlemen, football to the max.
Your host, Sean Garmer, Gary Vaughan, and Randy Isbelle.
Hello and welcome to us discussing this college football week 2. It's been a day or two since it ended, but still a few things to discuss. Guys, it was just awesome to have the full slate of football when we're talking about, those games that happen on Sundays that we're not talking about yet. But still cool to be back finally in the full swing of things.
Yes, it's actually great that, now we're getting games on Saturday and Sunday with full slates on top of other games on Thursday, Friday, and Monday and all that. But I do have to say, as far as college goes, this was a disappointing week compared to last week. They put their best foot forward, and now all of these top teams went, okay, now we'll play the cupcakes before we get into conference play. So there were some great games.
Now. You're really comparing last week to this week.
That's what you have to do, right?
No, I mean, they stacked the first week on purpose so everybody pays attention the rest of the weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. So this week is boring, comparative.
Oh, yeah. But, I mean, that's
last week was sweeps week for the college football.
Yes.
And now you have your generic episode.
Right. Mm-hmm. Which, I mean, still had some controversy. So.
Yes.
That's some good things. Still had at least a couple of upsets, so those are always fun deals there. I mean, guys, we probably should start with the call that shouldn't have been called, the play that should not have been allowed, and now has forced the Oklahoma State coach to say, I am never playing a non-conference game again unless the Big 12 are officiating, due to the MAC referee crew allowing Central Michigan to have one more play that should not have counted, and thus led to Oklahoma State losing. I mean, what do you guys think about this? Should they be getting a mulligan here? This is a sort of situation where there's nothing in doubt about this. Couldn't the NCAA go back and go, hey, you know what, Oklahoma State should be the winner here?
Well, I just want to correct you real quick. You said the Big 5 referees. You wanted a Big 5 conference.
Well, what I was reading here is it said Big 12, so they might have corrected that later.
Yeah, but either way, no, you can't go back and change this. Yes, it makes sense to, and I would, but the moment you do this, then Duke last year on the kickoff with the 98 laterals that scored a touchdown that had 4 missed calls in it would have to go back and get overturned. And then it just becomes mucky after that. Yes, this was clear cut. The last play should have never happened. The game should have been over. So, yes, they should have won the game. But let's just get real here. The only way this has any implications at all is if Oklahoma State runs the table and puts themselves in a chance to make the playoffs, and then that one loss really glares. However, I argue that even letting this team close says something, and basically says just as much as a loss. So yes, they should have won, but with the way college football is set up, this non-conference loss means nothing to me as far as big picture is concerned.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, and I look at that as a big key here. And the fact that Oklahoma State did not play up to par proves to me that really, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Now, do I think that, let's say this is a bigger matchup, and these are two powerhouse teams, and this happens, I do look at that scenario Sean's talking about and say, it's up to the NCAA and for them to come out and make that a right adjustment. I get it. You got to go with the credibility of the referees. What I keep hearing is, as soon as that final bell or the final whistle blows and the referee says end of game, there's no changing a score. But if it's a blatant rule that says that these referees screwed up, we have it in a rule book, I think you got to go by the rule book. It's almost hard for me to say, oh, man, these referees, they said it, so it's got to go. I think you could change it, but I'm with Randy. Really, does this matter? Not really, because at the end of the day, I don't think Oklahoma State's going to be going for that national championship.
No, I don't either. Could they have been going for a Big 12 championship? That's a whole other story.
Well, this doesn't affect that. This doesn't affect that at all. So.
Well, this does affect
true.
money, though. But bowl games, that is another thing. The lesser of a bowl game they get, if they even get one, that's money, and that could be an argument.
No, and that's true. And actually, that's very true. I think they're better than what I'm going to say. So, take this for what it is. But Gary brought up the point of it being two bigger teams. Obviously, more attention would be brought if it was, and the Alabama Ole Miss game next week where this happened. But say, Oklahoma State struggles this year and they finish the season 5-7 and are not bowl eligible, and that one loss knocked them out. What are they going to do then? So yes, there are scenarios where that kind of stuff does play out. And again, the referees made a mistake. They've been suspended. It sucks for Oklahoma State. Completely the wrong call, but what a crazy Hail Mary after that.
Yeah, that's the thing that kind of gets forgotten about. That is that they still had to go out there and actually make that play count, and they did. And I said don't sleep on Central Michigan when we were doing the preview podcast, and you guys kind of looked at me like, what the hell, man? But it's one of these things that happen, and either way, like you said, them getting that close enough shows you, I think, where Oklahoma State is now. We should sort of think about that there is a lot more parity in college football, I think, than there has been previously, but still, you're supposed to be one of these top Big 12 teams. You need to show that you are, like a lot of the other Big 12 teams showed on this week. But speaking of another Big 12 team, another Big 12 team failed in keeping their ranking because TCU lost to my Arkansas Razorbacks, which I, did not think that was going to happen. They ended up losing by 3 points, which is nothing to sort of just scoff at and say, oh, well, they shouldn't have been at that point. But Arkansas dominated a lot of that game. Then TCU came back, and then they just couldn't pull away like they did in the first game against South Dakota State. So Kenny Hill having to deal with old SEC foes doesn't work out well for him. But, just surprise you at all this?
Yeah, absolutely. This was high on my confidence picks. I thought they were going to bounce back after a rough showing in their first week, and they really didn't. And the thing that really surprised me was, as you said, Arkansas mostly controlled this game. And, it wasn't like it was a big, giant shootout and TCU just fell short. Arkansas jumped out early. It was a low-scoring game. You have to remember it was 28-28 at the end of it, which is very low-scoring for TCU before they went into overtime. So full credit to Arkansas, really, for taking out TCU on the road.
Oh, definitely. And, this is a game that, a lot of people were, honestly kind of sleeping on Arkansas and thought, well, TCU, man, they're just a juggernaut at times. They can come out and score, 45 in no time. And this is not the same TCU team that you all know. And I don't know if anybody, kind of figured that out, but now you do know that. And I really feel like, this is what's going to happen with TCU. And I don't expect them to be that team that'll be fighting for even the Big 12 championship. I just don't see it because of the fact that they've lost so much talent. Sure, they've recruited a little bit, but they've got, a little bit different crew here. And no matter what Gary Patterson says or how much he tries to do, this is not magic, and he's not going to be able to snap his fingers and it go back the way it was for last year or 2 years ago. He's got a new group of kids here, and right now they're not doing what those other group of kids were doing. So congratulations to Arkansas. I mean, I would call it an upset, but honestly, I figured Arkansas was going to have a chance in this one.
Yeah, it's kind of like what Gary just said. It sort of depends on what you consider an upset, what you don't. Obviously, an SEC team playing a Big 12 team, it's sort of hard to say that, but either way, I think it was sort of shocking for everybody, and now TCU again gets put in their place, and I think by just the skin of the like barely last hair on their head kind of thing, depending on who was voting in our polls, I had them out along with Oklahoma State. Like I just thought they needed to be completely out after losing here, because you get a lesser leash when the first game you played shouldn't even been that close against South Dakota State either. So that's kind of what sucks about when you're talking about games that or in college where how you win matters just as much as getting the win. And that's somewhere we're going to go here with Clemson, where once again they do not look very they don't look like that Clemson team that we saw last year. They're kind of sluggish to get through these first two games. I mean, you kind of worried about them at all?
I am. I'm definitely concerned about this Clemson team because really, I mean, I had him as my number 2 team coming into this year. I really felt like, the situation that they came into with Watson and the rest of this team was going to be able to kind of recreate what they did last year. I didn't have any doubt about it. But the way they're playing right now, I mean, this is totally different than what I expected to see. And it was a difficult thing to do, because I had projected them so high. But even when we were doing our top 25, I definitely had to lower them because I no longer have the confidence in this team that I once did.
Yeah, that's the one thing that's very tough about college football is the fact that there is no preseason. So some teams, just have to work out some kinks. We did not think this was going to happen with Clemson. We just figured that they would come in rolling. But that offense has come out sluggish and off-timed and just do not look like the Tigers that we thought of. Luckily, they do have one more cupcake to go before they get into ACC play and one more chance to really kind of get that ball rolling. But luckily for them, it's early in the season. They were able to win both of those close games. And if that offense can start clicking, they still have a great chance to make the playoffs. So my worry level is probably at a 3 or 4 right now. I believe they play South Carolina State next week. If they struggle with them as well, I think I'll get up to where Gary is and be really concerned.
The Holy War lived up to everything that we thought it would be. A 1-point game that Utah wins. I mean, I think we were kind of split on the BYU, who was taking BYU and who was taking Utah, but I said I was with my one confidence, and I felt like I wasn't wrong in that.
Yeah, very close game. I think most of the confidence levels were low on that one. And one of those really good week 2 games that came down to it. Another game that was that way was the Boise State Washington State game. A lot of closer West Coast games this week.
Yeah, I agree. And it's a game that once again, I mean, it's kind of a little bit of a surprise in a way, but it kind of ended up the way you could see it.
Penn State getting a lot of flack for basically Franklin deciding to call that pass play at the end when you didn't have to do a whole lot and get into field goal range, or they already were in field goal range. They didn't have to do a whole lot to get into further, more comfortable field goal range. They decided to go with a taking a shot at the end zone. It gets intercepted, and Penn State, after doing all this to come back and tie the game, or get in a position where they could tie, Pittsburgh winds up winning because of an interception at the end. Kind of do you see it as a dumb call, looking at it that way, or was he sort of right to take the shot?
It's not. No, I wouldn't go as far as dumb. They were at the 31, so that's a very long field goal. Yes, you still want to be careful with the ball, but if he felt like he had the chance right there, why not go for it? We see in the pro game, kickers are not the most reliable in the world. So if he felt like he could make the play and he went for it, then, it's going to be on him. But I wouldn't say it was dumb. Is it risky?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you got to do what you think is best. And if you don't trust your kicker and you're really not, sure of what you can do next, I mean, you've got to try, what you know best. So I guess that's what they knew best, and successful or not.
Yeah, certainly, and I mean Pittsburgh continues to roll. I think if they get another couple wins, we might have to be talking about them get into those polls. Certainly, they've looked very good in the first two games, and Penn State this is actually one of the older rivalries, and apparently they only have like a 4-year contract, and then who knows when they'll get to play each other again. So hopefully they get that figured out, because this is one of those games that's always interesting to watch, and they lived up to that certainly for this. Arizona State and Texas Tech just decided to, where's that Wild West music when you need it, because that's pretty much what this felt like.
Perfect.
Close enough. 68 points put up by Arizona State. Not any measly 55 that Texas Tech put up or anything. I heard people talking about, this is the year Texas Tech's defense is going to go somewhere. Yeah, about that.
This is the Arizona State team I was talking about last year. I was actually at work. I went to work. I work Saturday night. So I get to work and I'm just watching TV during a break, and the bottom line's going on ESPN, and it shows Arizona State was beating Texas Tech 44-41. I went, wow, what a high scoring game. And then I looked, and there was 7 minutes to go in the third quarter.
Damn.
Grief. But just shout out to Kalen Ballage. I believe that's how you say his last name. 8 touchdowns, tying an NCAA record, and he did it on 15 touches.
Yeah,
he carried the ball 13 times for 137 yards and 7 touchdowns, and added 2 receptions for 48 yards and a touchdown. Talk about a touchdown hog.
Jeez.
I just wish he showed up last year.
I mean, Lamar Jackson put up 6. Or was it? No, he put up 5 and 610 yards in that game against the Cupcake, against Syracuse. But, geez, this was even crazier.
It was, and this kid. I mean, I did have the Texas Tech game on, and I'm sitting there and I'm working on some stuff for the website, and I'm looking at my phone and trying to figure out what's going on. And here I am, with the game on in the background, and it seemed like every other time I'd look down at the phone, touchdown. And so that's what kind of game it was. I mean, it was just a consistent stream of touchdowns. No defenses.
At least it makes it fun to watch. I mean, and we were talking about, this week being what it is, this week coming up. Once again, back to the having awesome games to watch. And, we were talking about Oklahoma State maybe not making it. You know who Oklahoma State plays next week? Or this weekend? They play Pittsburgh. They may not have made it past Pittsburgh on the undefeated scale.
Mm-hmm.
So this whole thing losing the sense. Look, I get it. It's all about motivation and how you and all that kind of stuff. But there's nothing that says they would have made it past week 3 undefeated at this point.
And before we get into week 3, can I just make a plea to the NCAA just for a game I want to see in bowl season. We just talked about Arizona State, and you had brought up Louisville. Can we just have those two teams go at it in a bowl game?
Well, not
Please.
if Louisville go somewhere.
Calm down. They're not national championship contenders. Stop it. But
what if they make it to one of the other big bowls or whatever? What if Clemson falters and Louisville's second?
Well, Arizona State can get there too. Arizona State, the team that should have been national championship team last year. I can't say it. It's awful. It's just a terrible pick by me. But I don't care. Listen, if they go very far, that's fine. I'm just saying, as a game that I would love to watch that high-powered Louisville offense. Who, listen, I know I'm the last one that has not jumped on the bandwagon yet, but Lamar Jackson is ridiculous, and I just can't see him doing that against top-tier teams, and I don't know if he has any help around him. It's a one-man offense in Louisville, but I want to see him versus Arizona State, first one to 100 wins. That's all I'm saying.
I don't blame you.
No, I don't either.
That would definitely be an awesome game to watch, certainly. Let me run down. I don't have the, shoot, now it's making me, oh no.
Are you looking for him?
I had already picked some of my week 3 games, and then I hit something and it made it go back. The largest attended college football game in the history of the sport. Tennessee goes in and scores 45 on Virginia Tech. They kind of start out slow again, but then they recover much better than they did against Appalachian State. I think those worries about Tennessee, are they done now, or are you kind of still not sure?
Well, I'm still not sure as far as getting themselves in, as a contender in the SEC, but I think, getting knocked down as far as they did against Appalachian State was a little overreaction. Yes, they should be blowing out teams like that, but like I said, there's no preseason in college football, so you're going to have games like that. But just to go to that site, what an amazing venue to hold a football game in Bristol Motor Speedway.
Unless
with the
you're
race.
there.
I'm sure
because you couldn't watch Kraft if you're there.
But listen, it's like, we've all been. I don't know if Gary's been to one, but going to a WrestleMania, you're not there to pinpoint specific moves in matches. You're there for the aura. You're there for the adrenaline rush of that huge crowd that goes to WrestleMania. People that went to that game to break down defenses or whatever went to the wrong game. You're just there for 150,000 screaming people. That was it. I'm sure half of those 150,000 people had no clue what was going on in the game because they were so trashed from the crazy tailgating that I'm sure happened before.
Yeah, I'm sure as well. And you're right about the WrestleMania stuff. I went to last year. It was my first one, and that was at AT&T Stadium. And when you got that many people in a room, it's crazy. And
we can still see stuff though.
Yeah, you can still see stuff, but it's about being there because we were not close to the ring at all.
Right.
But at the same point, it's about being in that giant crowd full of people like-minded, interested in the same thing you are. So that's what's fun. It's exciting. It doesn't mean that it doesn't have to be 50-yard line seats at this game. It's just fun.
Yeah, and that's where my point of WrestleMania came up. It's when you're at WrestleMania, since there's a big wrestling contingency on the site, you know what's going on, and you can keep track of a match. But I'm sure you guys did exactly what I did when I went to WrestleMania 19, and as soon as I could, I went back and watched it on TV so I can go, okay, I thought this match was great live, but how did it really turn out? What did I miss, basically? one of my favorite matches at WrestleMania 19 was Vince McMahon versus Hulk Hogan, just because the crowd was hilarious. You go back and watch that match, not the greatest match, but live, man, that thing stole the show.
Well, I would have if WrestleMania 32.
That's what I'm saying. You're
wasn't,
there for
bad,
the experience.
But, you know. I mean, I'll go back and I went back and watched that NXT Takeover for like 3 or 4 different times. But
we actually went to that and then came home and watched it again.
Yeah, but I mean also that WrestleMania was like 7 hours long, so but I wasn't in a rush to spend 7 hours watching that again. But,
okay, so to bring this back to football, WrestleMania was 7 hour longs. The tailgating before that big game. For Tennessee
this was like a NASCAR thing.
The tailgating was 7 hours before the kickoff.
Wow.
But
I talked to a few people that they did the whole NASCAR thing. They went the whole weekend. They stayed the whole everything, you know.
Now next year, college football and NASCAR need to get together, and let's do both at the same time. Can we have a football game in the infield? Can we have a football game in the infield and a race going on in the track?
Yeah, what if the car crashes and hits one of the
Well, no, because you're going to have nobody. The infield is so black. I mean, if you watch NASCAR, you know, the infield and everything has a ton of people. People camp out in infields. There's just a ton of space between the track and anywhere anyone's going to be. Obviously, it's not going to work out at Bristol because the infield is also where you put all the trailers and stuff, and it gets jam-packed. But I'm just saying, I mean, nobody's going to get in danger because you have everything, you know, spaced off anyways. It wasn't like people were sitting on the track for this football game. I'm just saying, how cool would it be to have a football game and a race going on at the same time? I want to see that now.
I told you, I wanted to see the pace car driving around every time they scored a touchdown, but didn't happen.
That would have been awesome.
Well, hopefully Randy can keep dreaming about that situation. Who knows? It could happen.
I didn't watch this whole game, and I know, you know, touchdown celebrations are frowned upon, but I'm disappointed nobody scored a touchdown, grabbed a checkered flag, and went in a reverse circle.
Or just wave the checkered flag to begin, period.
Yeah.
And Oregon.
No burnouts either. Disappointing. Okay,
yeah, no, Oregon blew through Virginia as we'd expect, but should have been by more. They let Virginia score about like 2 or 3 touchdowns in that fourth quarter.
Yeah, they took the foot off the pedal for sure.
Wake Forest freaking upset Duke, and I had them way in my confidence and killed me in the our rankings there. And East Carolina continues their winning ways. I think they haven't lost since sometime last year, and they beat NC State. So that's all the games that were in our and Iowa rolled Iowa State as was expected. Mm-hmm. So and I mean, I think everything else that was sort of there in week 2 was sort of people just doing the business. I mean, Louisville did the business, Alabama, Florida State, Ohio State, Michigan, Houston, Washington. Georgia was one that was like, what the hell's going on?
I made fun of Lamar, but damn, Lamar kept up there with him.
Yeah, certainly. Lamar. With 0 points.
Who am I thinking? Who did play? Lamar played Houston. Who played Georgia? Nichols. Sorry, I got Nichols and Lamar messed up. I just remember making fun of both of them last week. But excuse me, Nichols kept up with Georgia.
Well, hey, they just, I don't know, making dumb plays, and Jacob Eason not performing well here either. So. Unlike Shane Buechele, who looked really good against UTEP, 4 touchdowns, Gary, I'm sure you were excited about that.
Yeah, to an extent. I mean, I think that the Longhorns really did themselves a disservice in this game because of the fact that they were very slow and methodical throughout this entire game scoring. I think in one quarter they scored their highest amount, which was 14 points, and the rest of them a touchdown here and 10 points there. So, I mean, I think that they should have really showcased their talent and really went after them. But, I mean, It is what it is. It's a victory. Man, these are the times you take advantage of it. You go and put up 65.
Yeah, Notre Dame and who is it? Ole Miss had bounced back wins before they get to play some big games in week 3. This is going to be a fun show to talk about on Thursday because we got some major games to pick, including that Louisville Florida State game that happens right at noon on Saturday, and Houston's going to play Cincinnati on Thursday. So we'll get to talk about an actual college football game along with the NFL game on Thursday as well. So I think the only thing we got left is to sort of talk about our top 25 from this week, the top 25 poll, which was voted on by, of course, the 3 of us in here, and Daniel Anderson, who is our games co-senior editor, but he also does a lot of stuff in football, and, of course, Brandon Biscobing, who you've heard on this podcast before, mostly for NFL stuff, talking Giants or anything like that. But so we're going to go through the first 10 here, and you guys talk about any kind of surprises or anything that we have going on. We got Alabama, of course, at 1, Florida State 2, Ohio State 3. Clemson dropped down all the way to 4 for us. Houston at 5, Michigan 6, Stanford 7, Louisville 8, Washington 9, and Texas at number 10. I think obviously Clemson dropping a bit. We kind of discussed that, but that's kind of what happens here. Anything else sort of jump out to you guys in this 10?
It's interesting to me that where Houston is at the moment, because I guess you would say in a way people are buying the Kool-Aid, and I love Houston. I think that they've got a great team here. But I'm really curious to know everybody else's thought process on Houston because I had to look back at the rankings, but I don't think I had Houston that high. If I did, I just don't remember. I think I had Michigan higher.
Yeah, I have our averages, and actually Sean, Brandon, and Daniel had Houston at 5. You had them at 6, and I had them at 7. I'm kind of with you. They're a really good team. I think there's a few teams that are higher, but it's just one of those, those Cinderella darlings that I think everyone wants to jump on. Again, we're really close in the rankings. I'm not saying it shouldn't be in the top 10 or anything.
I think I dropped Clemson below them and moved Michigan and Ohio State up.
Yeah, you did. So, I mean, honestly, everyone it's still too early to call. Anyone in the top 10 could almost get flip-flopped around, except for, I think, the top 3. Alabama, Florida State, and Ohio State, I think, are clear-cut, above the rest right now. And Clemson, to me, is still right there. They just haven't shown it. But everyone else in that top 10, you could draw out of a hat, and I wouldn't really argue with you that much. The one team that I'm most curious about as the season progresses, because they haven't really had to show us anything, is the Washington Huskies. They've done exactly what they needed to do, blew out 2 cupcakes. They have another one coming up before they get into that Pac-12 schedule. I want to see what they can do against real competition.
Yeah, and Texas could certainly... I mean, almost all these teams are going to be playing some heavy hitters. I mean, Oklahoma and Ohio State are going to be playing each other. We already talked about the Florida State and Louisville. Ole Miss playing Alabama, so they're already getting into the SEC play. Houston's got Cincinnati. Stanford's got USC, which, it's still USC. And Texas has got Cal. So, some of these teams could be moving up or down. This is going to be another fun top 25 to look at when we look at next week. Michigan State, who has to play Notre Dame next week, at 11. They were off. Tennessee at 12. Oklahoma at 13. Wisconsin at 14. Georgia at 15, who took a little bit of a tumble because they couldn't dispose of Nichols. Iowa at 16. Go ahead.
Brandon doesn't even rank Georgia. Just call him Brandon out. Overreaction theater over here.
I don't know. I don't know about not ranking them at all. That's weird. Texas A&M at 17. We'll stop there. Obviously, I think some of these teams, they move up. I think Tennessee after giving the scare and then kind of putting away Virginia Tech, who is sort of one of those middling teams. They're not bad but not good either. And everybody else that's in this, other than Georgia, kind of did the business and kind of stayed sort of where they are. They move up one, something like that. It seems kind of fair, right?
Yeah, no surprises in our rankings here.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Texas A&M is the one team that I'm really interested in seeing how real they are. But outside of that, no surprises.
LSU at 18, Notre Dame 19, Baylor 20, Oregon 21. Ole Miss gets back into the rankings at 22. Florida at 23, who plays North Texas, Gary, next week. They're going to actually be on TV. So,
victory road for North Texas.
In our dreams, Gary. TCU hangs on at 24, and Boise State enters they were in our rankings last week, but they were not ranked in the other big polls. They are 25 after they barely get by Washington State. So anything in this last bit here, I thought looking back that maybe we were kind of rushing on Ole Miss and knocking them out of the rankings last week was a bit premature. I still stand that perhaps TCU probably should have been out, but I don't think, you can really. This is kind of where you get into that territory of it kind of depends on who they played, and a lot of these teams sort of played teams that they were going to beat.
Yeah, there's a few other teams I think could probably fit in our top 25 a bit higher than the TCU. A few examples: Miami, I think, should deserve in our top 25. Utah is really close as well. But a few people still hanging on to TCU. Again, I'm calling him out. I want him on this podcast so he can explain himself. Brandon has TCU at 18.
What?
Yeah, Georgia unranked. So, Brandon, explain yourself, sir.
Yeah. And I think TCU fell, and I think they kind of fell to the right place because, they did only lose by, an overtime loss. So, it's not like this team just crumbled. And Arkansas is part of the SEC. Not a terrible team. They've never been awful. They play in a hard conference, and they just are not at the level that maybe in Alabama and some of the other SEC teams are. So, I don't know. I don't think it's too bad to kick you out of the top 25 there. The one team that I think is going to get higher and be hopefully in consideration not too long will be Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame's a better team than people would give them credit for. I was really impressed with that game against Texas. This week they showcased that they can really do some business and do it right. So I think that Notre Dame's a team we'll see move up.
They beat Michigan State. They're going to be higher in that poll, I can guarantee you.
Yeah, exactly. I think they can prove. We'll see.
Yeah, because Michigan State really hasn't shown anything either. So this is a put up or shut up time for both these teams, honestly. But I think that pretty much does it here for the college show. Again, as Randy kind of said, a lot of the big teams played the cupcakes or the smaller teams. But man, I can't wait for this week 3 because I already outlined all those huge games for you. There's some that are, Georgia's playing Missouri. I could go on. This week 3 is going to be amazing. I can't wait. We're going to be this is one of those times I wish I had one of those 4-panel TVs so I could just have 4 games on at once or whatever because, man, it's one of those weeks.
Yeah, I'm excited. I really am, and Saturday can't get here fast enough.
Well, we should probably discuss this here. This is meant to go along with the article on the podcast. So this is why we sort of do this, so that when they read the article, they also listen to us talk about it on the podcast. So that is my idea. I don't know about you guys. My idea of you want them to read the article and listen to the podcast, have us have this discussion on the podcast. But
definitely,
I don't know if you guys want to I know Randy may not have an opinion on this, but that's just my thought of it. Is you got to use the written stuff to kind of get people to listen sometimes, because sometimes they just see the podcast and they go, I don't know, but this is their kind of thought on it. Let's listen to that. But all right, until we get to you on Friday morning, previewing all these and getting to make these really tough predictions. We will see you then, everybody. I gotta love when I can't find it. There we go.
The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.